Hi, my name is Ben Miller and I'm a physical therapist here at Total Physical Therapy. And today we are continuing our installment looking at how to start running as either a new runner or somebody who's taking off a lot of time from running. And today we are going to talk about how to progress into a running program. So if you have never run before and you wanted to know how to start, here we're going to start talking about how do we get into an actual running program. Now, every running program is going to be a little bit different, and the way that you approach it and progress it is going to depend on what goals you have in mind. For example, there could be a program that's geared towards somebody losing weight. There's a program that's geared towards somebody who's trying to get healthy, somebody who is trying to race for a specific race. All of these different goals have different types of programs that you're going to be catered towards. And so the examples that I'm going to give today are somebody who's just starting running and somebody who wants to get a healthier lifestyle. So is trying to just get into the sport and get to an arbitrary number such as 30 minutes of running. And so before we begin this discussion, we need to talk about what are the different variables in running that we can adjust to help improve your fitness. There are a couple listed here that we'll talk about. There are a couple others that we won't talk about, but we'll use these for simplicity's sake. The first one that you can adjust is what we call volume, or how far do you run? How many miles are you putting in each run, or how many miles do you run in a week? The second one is duration. How long does it take you to run these? Does it take you an hour to do your run? Does it take you 30 minutes to do your run? How much time does it take you to do it? The third one is intensity. How fast are you going? Are you running at 10 minutes per mile? Are you running at 7 minutes per mile? And then the last one is frequency. How many days a week are you doing different sessions? Are you running 2 days a week? Are you running 5 days a week? And the way that we can progress and make you a better runner is by adjusting these different variables. And by adjusting them, we can tweak the stress on the body, increase the stress on the body just a little bit to allow you to get better fitness. It needs to be said that if you are a new runner and you've never run before, the chances of you getting injured are much higher than somebody who's been running for a long time. Now, there are a bunch of studies out there trying to figure out why this is the case. A couple of reasons. Some people think that runners who run for a long period of time have listened to their body long enough to know, okay, when do they need to back off, when can they push forward, and newer runners just have never had that experience before. And so newer runners need to maybe take it a little bit more cautiously whenever you're progressing into a program, just to make sure that you're doing things that you need to stay safe and not pushing too much and getting into an injury while we're running. Alright, so let's go ahead and start talking about the plans. It needs to be said that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all plan. You can go Google running plans or walking plans and you'll see a bunch of different things pop up, and one thing you'll notice right away is that they're all different. There's not one that's going to match you specifically unless you do what we talked about in a previous video, where you hire a coach, and a coach can listen to how are you feeling? What has your experiences been? Those types of things, and cater a plan that's more specific towards you. That would probably be the safest bet. But if you don't have that luxury of hiring a coach, then we need to start taking steps to figuring out, okay, what do we do moving forward for yourself? All right. So if you're a new runner and you're just starting, probably the number one thing that I would recommend before you even start running is building up what we consider a walking program. I would much rather you spend some time building up ligament strength, bone strength, tendon strength by doing a much less intense exercise such as walking, rather than just sending you out onto the pavement and running a bunch and getting yourself into an injury. And so what we're going to do is our goal is to build up to 30 minutes of continuous walking over the span of 2 to 3 weeks. If you're able to walk for 30 minutes for about 2 to 3 weeks, now I would say it's more appropriate to go ahead and start into a running program. So what would that look like? Some people, even walking 30 minutes seems like a daunting process. So how would we take somebody who can't even walk maybe 10 minutes without a problem, and try to build them up to 30 minutes. The first thing I would start with is that I would try to make walking a habit. Try to get into a habit of making sure that you're walking almost every day. I would say at least 5 days out of the week where you're getting out the door and just getting your feet moving. For a prolonged period of time where you're specifically saying, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes today. And so that's the very first thing that I would say. The second thing is to try to progress the amount that you're walking. So say you're going for 5 minutes a day for 3 days a week. Well, the next thing I would change or try to progress is, say, going 5 minutes a day for 5 days a week. So see what we did there? We went from 3 days to 5 days. We're increasing the amount of time or the amount of days or the frequency that you're walking and trying to build that habit of you getting out the door and doing something for exercise. The next thing that I would start tweaking is start increasing the volume that you're doing or the duration. So we were doing 5 minutes. Say you do that 5 minutes a day for 5 days a week. You do that for 1 week and everything's feeling good and that's not a problem. Great. Let's go ahead and increase the amount of time that you're spending on your feet. Let's go up to say something like 10 minutes a day. And so you go up to 10 minutes a day, do that for a whole week, and you feel fine. Great. Let's go up to 15 minutes the next week. And so you see what we're doing here. We're slowly progressing up to 30 minutes. Now what I would not do is I would not start at 10 minutes and automatically jump up to something like 30 minutes. We need to make smaller changes over a period of time to allow your body to adapt to the stress that you're putting on it. Where a lot of people get into trouble is where you try to make too big of a jump that you're ready for. And so, which is why it's important to listen to your body, which is why I make a big point out of, at the end of the week, if you felt like you're pretty good, that may be a good indicator that we can go ahead and adjust your training stimulus and push the envelope just a little bit more and go the next week. Now as you're in the training the next week, if you're in the middle of the week, say Wednesday, you've been doing 10 minutes a day and you start feeling like, man, I'm just getting tired, I'm getting a little bit sore. Okay, that may be an indicator that it was either too big of a jump or you're not ready to progress to the next level yet. And so you need to start building up that internal clock of listening to your body and trying to figure out when am I able to progress and when I'm not. Okay, so you slowly progress over time. You're now at 30 minutes of walking and you've done this for 2 to 3 weeks. Great. I would say as long as that is feeling like it's fine by those end of those 2 to 3 weeks, then I would say you're ready to progress to what we call a run walking program. And where I typically have people start with a run walking program is I have them, their first session, I have them walk for 10 minutes to warm up. Then I do what we call run walking intervals. For 10 minutes, what they're going to do is they're going to run for 30 seconds and then take a break and walk for a minute. Then after they do that interval, they will then run again for 30 seconds and then walk for a minute. And you do that for a span of about 10 minutes. And then after that, so you've worked out for about 20 minutes now, 10 minutes walking, 10 minutes run walking interval. And then the last 10 minutes, you're going to slow back down again and walk for the last 10 minutes for a cool down. And this is how we start introducing you into run walking. Now, your very first run walk session, if you go out there and you're walking and for your run, you go out and you're basically sprinting. You're sprinting your 30 seconds and then walking for a minute. That is not necessarily what we're trying to accomplish. Remember what your goals are. And if your goal is for health, then we can do just fine with slower pace running. Now, if you're racing, that's a different story. We can take a progression a different way. But if we're just going it for health, what you want to do is you actually want to run at a pace that is pretty easy. And for a lot of new runners, that's basically a very slow trot. If you're slow trotting, hopefully you're able to communicate or talk while you're walking or while you're run walking. This is why running is such a great social sport, because you can go out in a group and go running with people and be able to carry a conversation. If you're able to do this successfully, this is the effort level that we want you to go at whenever you're running for health. Now, if you get to, say, your third interval and you're starting to become exhausted because you're not used to the running, okay, great. So maybe for you, you should walk for 10 minutes. You should do run-walk intervals for about 5 minutes instead of the 10 minutes, and then walk the last 15 minutes. whenever you're going through, don't try to just stick your nose to the grindstone and say, well, I have to get my 10 minutes in. Feel free to adjust it for you. If you feel like you're struggling with it, good, back off a little bit, because you're not going to gain all your fitness right away. It's going to be over a period of time where you're going to start getting fitter and fitter. So try not to take all of it all at once. Go ahead and bite it off into small chunks that you can digest a lot more easily. The first workout, we did 10 minutes walking, 10 minutes run walking, 10 minutes of walking for a cool down. Okay, how do we progress this now? Because the goal by the end of this run walking progression, I want you to be able to run for 30 minutes. How do we progress to that? So what I would start with first is I would start increasing the length that you're run walking. So instead of doing 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, I would do 8 minutes, 14 minutes of run walking, and then 8 minutes again on the back end. So you're still working out for a total of 30 minutes, but what you've done is you've taken a little bit of time off your warm up and your cool down and put it into your run walking intervals. You're still doing 30 seconds running, 1 minute rest walking, but you've increased the amount of those that you're able to do. And what I would slowly increase that over time to where you're getting down to 5 minutes walking at the beginning, 20 minutes of run walking, and then the last 5 minutes of walking. So you have a nice warm up, a nice time in the middle where you're working a little bit harder, and then a time at the end where you can cool down. So that would be my first goal, is to get to that step. Okay, so once you're able to get to that step, now what I would do is I would start changing the run walking intervals themselves. Instead of running for 30 seconds and then walking for a minute, what I would do is I would start slowly increasing the time that you're running. So instead of running 30, walking a minute, I would run a minute and walk a minute. And you would do that for a week, still doing for 20 minutes at a time. Then the next week, you can maybe bump that up to 2 minutes running, still 1 minute walking. Then the next week, bump it up to 3 minutes running, 1 minute walking. See what we're doing here? We're increasing the amount of time that you're running while still maintaining the rest. Now, once you get up to about 5 minutes of running and 1 minute of walking, what I would do is now I would start decreasing the amount that you're walking. So running for 5 minutes, and then decrease to 30 seconds walking. Okay, if you're able to do that fairly well, then what I would do is then I would take my 5 minutes of running, I would then increase that to 10 minutes running, but increase this back up to 1 minute walking. So what I've done is I made that a little bit more difficult by having you run for a longer duration, but the ratio of run walking is still the same because I increased both of them by 2. So 5 now turns into 10, 30 seconds now turns into a minute. And so, but it makes it a little bit more difficult for you because you don't have that rest after 5 minutes like you're used to. If you're able to run for 10 minutes and walk for a minute and be able to do that 2 times in your session, great. So now you're able to start, your next goal is to start taking out that 1 minute rest break that you've been having. So you're running for 10 minutes and then reduce that down to 30 seconds, then run for 10 minutes. And then after that, try to see if you can go for the full 20 minutes. Now this process may take a while. This is not something that you can do really quick. This is something that happens over months and months of running. Probably somewhere a realistic goal for somebody who has never run before, maybe he's never even done sports before, I would expect this process to take up to 6 months for somebody who's never done any of this before. And so if you're getting into this and you've never done anything like this before, just know that you're in it for the long haul. This isn't something that just happens really quickly over a few weeks. This is something that you're going to have to dedicate yourself to and do it over the span of a few months. This is also why I talked about in the previous video that a lot of people give up on the running program somewhere between 3 to 6 months, because some people get frustrated as they're doing this run walking, they're frustrated with how slow it happens. But if you know from the front end that it's going to be a commitment that you're going to put forth on the front end, much more likely to follow through and complete the program. So these are just some ideas, some samples of ways that you can progress a running program to be able to get up to a point where you're running for a span of about 30 minutes. Now, of course, if you want to run more than 30 minutes and keep progressing that, you can. But this is just some ideas that you can take in order to fit this to yourself. Thank you guys for listening to this rather lengthy video. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. If you guys have any other ideas that maybe I haven't mentioned on a progression, feel free to leave those on the comments below as well. And stay tuned for future videos looking at other aspects for new runners, such as what kind of shoes should I buy, what kind of exercises do I need to do to keep myself healthy, stretching, is it good, is it not? Feel free to listen into these videos whenever they come out. You guys have a great day.